every show reaches a point where it's not as good as it used to be, and I'm curious to find out when. So I watched every episode of Boy Meets World to give you my take on the quality of each season to discover the moment when I think the series died. Boy Meets World is about Corey Matthews and his progression through childhood as a wisecracking 6th grader into adulthood as the husband to his high school sweetheart Topanga Lawrence. But before the show was all about Corey and Topanga, Season 1 started off focused on Corey's relationship with his family, namely his parents Alan and Amy Matthews, his older brother Eric, and his younger sister Morgan. But the most interesting dynamic of Corey's is his adversarial relationship with his teacher and neighbor, Mr. George Feeney. The fact that Mr. Feeney has more screen time in the pilot episode than all of Corey's family foreshadows just how much influence this man is going to have in Corey's life as the show moves along. The first few episodes of Season 1 are mainly about Corey's relationship with his dad, but it's in Episode 4, Corey's Alternative Friends, when Topanga is introduced as Corey's oddball classmate. But despite how weird she is, Topanga and Corey bond over a school petition they want signed, and share a first kiss that Topanga forces upon Corey, which shocks him at first, but he shows genuine interest in her at the end of the episode. But Corey and Topanga's budding relationship is put on the back burner, as the show focuses on other stories for most of the season, like Topanga crushing on Eric in Episode 13, and the class nerd Stuart Minkus crushing on Topanga for most of the season. Another significant relationship of Corey's is with his best friend Shawn, where they frequently get into harmless mischief. But things get serious in Episode 17, The Fugitive, when Shawn takes things too far and blows up Alan's grocery store mailbox with a cherry bomb, putting Corey in the position to have to talk some sense into his friend who plans to run away from home rather than face the consequences of his actions. This is the first time the show focuses on the differences between Corey and Shawn's life choices that stem from their different upbringing, which becomes a significant storyline as the show progresses. But at the end of this season, Corey and Topanga's relationship is brought back to life in the puberty episode Boy Meets Girl, when Shawn falls in love with a girl who asks him out on his first date, which makes Corey want to keep up by asking Topanga out for a first date, where they end up playing laundry basketball at his house.
Topanga's triple teamed at the timeline. She breaks the trap, heads to the top of the key, and leaps toward the basket, doing a spiraling tomahawk 360. Slam dunk!
And once again, the end of the episode hints that their relationship is going to pick up steam. But yet again, this was just another pump fake, because of the changes that were coming up in Season 2. Season 2 redefines the look and feel of the series with several significant changes. Corey, Shawn, and Topanga are aged up 2 years to become high school freshmen, and their social life at school becomes the main focus, instead of Season 1's more family-focused storylines. The characters also receive some significant changes this season. Minkus is gone without a trace, the bully Harley Kiner and his cronies Joey and Frankie are introduced, and Mr. Jonathan Turner is the young cool teacher that likes to buck tradition in his classroom, which creates conflict between he and Mr. Feeney, who is the new high school principal. But the most significant change to the characters is that Topanga's weirdo hippie persona is retconned to make her more down to earth, greatly improving her chemistry with Corey and the rest of the cast. I define Season 2 as the season of love, because of its heavy focus on dating and the teenage boys' raging hormones, with Shawn and Eric constantly in and out of relationships nearly every episode. But what bothered me about this season were all the inconsistencies in the characters or storylines. For starters, Topanga only appears in 12 of 23 episodes, and some of those appearances are very brief, so her romance with Corey feels very disjointed, where they act like a couple in one episode, but then she disappears for a while, so Corey chases after other girls and has 2 girlfriends, only to have Topanga reappear and continue developing her relationship with Corey like she never left. Another thing that bothered me was Eric's personality retcon at the end of the season, when he suddenly becomes a bumbling and slightly insane idiot as he preps for the SATs with Feeney's help. But aside from those inconsistencies, where Season 2 really shines is focusing again on Shawn's personal struggles, like in the episode Wrong Side of the Tracks, when Shawn gets dumped by a girl because of his low-income status, which makes him want to throw his life away again by joining up with Kiner. But luckily, Corey and Mr. Turner intervene and prevent him from going down that path. But Shawn's struggles don't end there, because in the final 2 episodes, Career Day and Home, his mom drives off with the family's trailer, And his poor excuse of a dad, Chet, leaves Shawn with the Matthews so he can track her down. Shawn eventually runs away, gets into trouble, and seeks refuge at Mr. Turner's apartment, who ends up taking Shawn in, leaving the season on a cliffhanger with Shawn's family in shambles, which sets the stage for what is about to come in Season 3. Season 3 is the season of Shawn, because many episodes focus on Shawn's issues that stem from his identity as a poor kid with no stable home life. He and Mr. Turner deal with trust and personal space issues in The Double Lie, when Shawn brings home a girl to what he thinks is an empty apartment, but finds out Turner lied to him about being out of town so he could have the place to himself for the weekend. In The Pink Flamingo Kid, Shawn and Corey get in a fight after catching Shawn's shady half-brother Eddie committing a crime. But Shawn shows he's willing to call the cops on his family after he realizes Corey is more of a brother to him than Eddie. But Shawn's desire to stand for what's right is immediately thrown out the window in the next episode, Life Lessons, when Shawn sides with a group of punks who vandalize Feeney's house over their frustration with his exam schedule. But Shawn changes sides again by being willing to call the cops when they decide to vandalize the school. Shawn's unstable home life reaches a climax in episode 20, when he's upset that Mr. Turner is hesitant about becoming his official legal guardian. So Corey tracks down Chet and convinces him to give up chasing after his wife and return to take care of Shawn. When the season wasn't focused on Shawn, it was focused on Eric's attempts to get into college, which meant he shared a lot of scenes with Mr. Feeney and continued acting like an unhinged idiot, except when a plot required him to be normal again. Corey and Topanga's relationship makes more progress this season when Corey asks her to be his girlfriend in the opening episode My Best Friend's Girl. But then, a couple episodes later, he tells her he loves her, which shocks Topanga, and she breaks up with him for a bit before realizing she loves him too. The drama didn't stop there though, because Corey is pursued by another girl while Topanga is homesick, but he feels guilty and tells her what happened and is forgiven. But in the episode The Grass is Always Greener, they both realize they feel stifled by their relationship and decide to break up, which felt very forced and seemed like the breakup's only purpose was so they could have a happily ever after ending for the Disney World episode when they get back together again. The season ends with a dramatic episode with Corey getting upset at Eric for not spending enough time with him before graduating and going off to college. But Eric discovers he didn't get accepted to any college, giving him plenty of time to develop a better bond with Corey. So they go on a summer road trip together that segues the end of Season 3 into the beginning of Season 4. Season 4 leaned into more dramatic stories, with several very special episodes on a variety of topics, such as child abuse, sexual harassment, Shawn becoming an errand boy for the mob, and Eric dating a single mother who wants a committed man for her and her son. Aside from these one-off very special episodes, there were other stories of the same vein that played out throughout the season, such as Shawn's mom Virna returning to the family, the Hunters gaining some financial stability and sense of pride when Chet becomes the high school janitor, and the Hunters hosting a humble Thanksgiving dinner for the Matthews. But Shawn's life is upended again when he's lured into a cult where he almost shuts everybody else out of his life until Mr. Turner gets into a near-fatal motorcycle accident, which forces Shawn to reevaluate his life and abandon the cult. Unfortunately, this was Mr. Turner's final appearance, and it was an unsatisfying exit for such a pivotal role model in Corey and Shawn's life, who had been absent for nearly the entire season. Other less serious stories from this season involve Alan having a midlife crisis, changing jobs to become the owner of a camping gear store, and hiring Eric with the intent to have this be their joint venture as equal partners. But it becomes clear halfway through the season that the story isn't going to be a significant storyline, because most of the season focuses on Eric struggling with his identity as a townie, while feeling pressure to make something of his life by going to college, instead of being a lazy bum living off his parents. Corey and Topanga's relationship goes through more hard times in a two-part episode when Corey finds out Topanga is moving to Pittsburgh. But she runs away to be with Corey, where they readmit their true love for one another, which persuades Alan and Amy to convince Topanga's aunt to take her in, so she can finish high school with Corey and her friends. But something that really started to bother me about the series at this point is how often Cory is constantly swooned over by girls whenever Topanga isn't around. The worst example comes from the season finale Learning to Fly, where Cory and Topanga have a falling out, and then Eric invites Cory and Shawn to come with him to check out a potential college, where they end up meeting a sorority girl, Mary Beth, who goes from angrily reporting Cory and Shawn as male trespassers to instantly throwing herself at Cory when she sees he's a sweet, sensitive guy, just to put him in another entanglement where he has to reject another woman to prove his love to Topanga. But unfortunately, Cory will be forced into these situations again in Season 5. The show went through a major shift in tone in Season 5, with the characters adopting a wacky, overacting style that felt inspired by Jim Carrey's popularity in the mid-90s.
Where does it end? All right, I didn't even go. My sister went. She's 10.
But this new zany humor was mixed in with more dramatic stories, like the introduction of Shawn's estranged half-brother Jack, who comes from one of Chet's many relationships. Jack and Eric become roommates since they're both going to Pembroke, and Chet coerces Shawn to move in with them so he can bond with Jack. But it's actually Eric and Jack that form a bond, so the creators can have Shawn search for his true love instead, who turns out to be Angela Moore, who he dates for 2 weeks, then dumps, then they get back together again after they realize they both want what Cory and Topanga have. And as far as those two are concerned, Cory and Topanga's love progresses to the point where he gives her a promise ring. But of course, Cory's love can't go unchallenged without a seductress to lure him away. So halfway through the season, he sprains his ankle during a school ski trip, leaving him alone at the lodge where he meets and falls for Lauren, who works there, which leads to another breakup with Topanga. A few episodes later, Topanga falls for Ricky while at an art exhibit, but after kissing him, she discovers she still loves Cory and wants to be with him forever. So they get back together, although they kind of break up again in the next episode, but then they get back together again so that Topanga can propose to Cory at the end of their graduation ceremony in the season finale. Seasons 6 and 7 just feel like extra fluff in order to squeeze more juice out of the show. By this point, Cory and Topanga's relationship is the biggest reason why this series is interesting to watch, and it's clear the creators know this because it takes until the middle of Season 7 for Cory and Topanga to get married, which means Season 6 has more obligatory moments of Cory and Topanga questioning their relationship. Shawn's relationship with Angela is the next most interesting story of the show, and just like Cory and Topanga, they also have many ups and downs, mostly downs, but Angela ends up moving with her dad to Europe, creating an unsatisfying end to their relationship that was dragged along for 3 seasons. As for the rest of the cast, Eric continues to act like a complete wacko in the last 2 seasons, while still conveniently normalizing when needed for a serious subplot. And Eric's love life also crashes and burns when he falls for his and Jack's new roommate Rachel, but ultimately loses out to Jack, who wins her heart instead. With the main cast at college during these 2 seasons, the Matthews family hardly ever appear anymore, and to make matters worse, they have a new baby, which is a common sitcom trope to try to inject life into a show that is overstaying its welcome. As for Mr. Feeney, his omnipresence as Cory, Shawn, and Topanga's teacher continues in Seasons 6 and 7, when he decides to forego retirement to become a student at Pembroke, but then quickly becomes a professor. In the series finale, Feeney gives a heartwarming monologue to Cory, Shawn, Topanga, and Eric that is one of the most memorable quotes of the show.
Believe in yourselves. Dream. Try. Do good.
But what doesn't make sense about this scene is if he's a college professor, how is he able to get inside his old middle school classroom again? All these reasons are why I think the show died on May 15th, 1998 in the episode Graduation. Because at this point, the cast are all in good places in their lives. Fan favorite characters like Frankie, Joey, and Minkus are all brought back for a special guest appearance, where Mr. Turner is also honorably mentioned. And the premise of the show has been fulfilled, with the boy and his friends meeting the world by graduating high school and becoming adults, with Mr. Feeney sending them off with a heartfelt farewell speech before retiring.
You 3 have given me more gratification in the past 4 years than I ever dreamed possible.
But you always complained about how difficult we are.
Well, you are. But sometimes the things you complain most about are the things that you care most about. Unfortunately, we don't always know that until it's too late.
To see some amazing mistakes you didn't know were left in the show, click the video on the screen. Or if I haven't made it yet, then click this video for more great content right here on Fun Fact Films.